The 2019 NHL Draft's first round is now complete. In today's video, we're going to recap picks 1 through 31, and I'll give you my thoughts. That's coming up next. Welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey and all of our coverage for the 2019 NHL Draft. The first round's now complete. We have picks 1 through 31 in the books here. So let's take a look here at all the picks. I'll let you know who all the teams selected and give you a little bit of info and my thoughts on the players. Of course, there's no surprise here. The New Jersey Devils selected Jack Hughes, number 1 overall. He will certainly become more likely the franchise player, their top center iceman. Hughes has been the clear-cut number 1 consensus pick all year. I know there are some out there that believe Kakko certainly give him a good run for his money. And I think long-term Kakko is going to be a terrific player too. But this is the first pick of the draft. There's no surprise here. Jack Hughes goes first overall to the New Jersey Devils. Next up, the New York Rangers with arguably the easiest pick of the draft. Jeff Gorton goes up and selects the Finnish winger Kaapo Kakko, who certainly had a terrific season leading into his draft selection year here. Obviously, he's been playing against men, had a terrific showing at various tournaments, whether it be the World Championships, the World Junior Championships. I do believe he is immediately ready to jump into the NHL and be an impact player for the New York Rangers. And like I said, this is by far the easiest selection here of round 1. At number 3, the Chicago Blackhawks take the big center iceman from the Saskatoon Blades in the WHL, KIRBY Dach. Now, KIRBY Dach is a player who should fit in quite nicely in Chicago. There was some belief that they might actually go ahead and take the top-ranked defenseman here in the draft, BYRAM, but they decided against that here and decided to go with a big center iceman. Obviously, he's a pass-first center iceman, terrific playmaker, great size, as really is the whole package, terrific two-way player, and should fit in quite nicely here with the Blackhawks here in the near future. With the number 4 overall selection, the Colorado Avalanche used this selection to take the top D-man in the draft, BYRAM. Now, he projects to more than likely be a number 1 defenseman here at the NHL level. He is an explosive skater, can get the puck out of the zone, no problem. He's a good on the power play. He's got great acceleration, good north-south speed, excellent lateral edge work. His puck skills really stand out as well. Overall, like I said, he's a terrific defenseman. Probably the only guy in the draft on the back end here that really projects to be a solid number 1D. You add him into the mix with Cale Makar, guys like Connor Timmins, Samuel Girard, and that Avalanche D-core is going to be deadly here in a few years' time. And that's just going to add more fuel to the fire that they're more likely going to be trading defenseman Tyson Barrie with all these young guys looking for playing time here and able to step up and improve their D-core. So we'll see if they trade Barrie here in the coming days now that they've added themselves yet another stud defenseman. The number 5 overall selection for the LA Kings that was used to select a U.S.-born player, Alex Turcotte. Of course, he's a second-generation player. His dad, Alfie Turcotte, played in the NHL for an extended period of time. Turcotte is a terrific two-way player. He has awesome offensive instincts, great acceleration, and certainly, like I said, the most complete two-way player in the draft. If it wasn't for Jack Hughes, I do think Turcotte would get more attention here in the draft. Obviously, playing on a stacked United States National Team Development Program team. He might not get quite as much attention, but he's certainly a terrific hockey player. Battled a lot of injuries all year, but he's certainly bounced back strong and showing how good of a hockey player he really is. The number 6 overall selection, the Detroit Red Wings selected the big German defenseman MORITZ SEIDER. This is where Steve Yzerman really threw the draft for a loop here and really went off the board and selected the big German defender. Many of us had him pegged for like a mid to late first round or certainly lower in the first round than what he was. Maybe, anywhere from 10 to 15. Some people had him around 20. But either way, certainly seems like a bit of a stretch to take him with number 6. But obviously the Red Wings are really high on this guy. He had a really awesome season and was really one of the top risers throughout the draft rankings here throughout the season. Certainly ended the year on a high note as well, competing in the World Championships for Germany and not only getting a chance to play, but certainly getting to play a fairly big role and scored a couple of goals here to end his season on a high note. The number 7 selection belongs to the Buffalo Sabres, and they use that to select the big center iceman from the WHL's Lethbridge Hurricanes, Dylan Cozens. Now, Dylan Cozens is also a pretty solid, complete player. He's at elite speed, and he's the opposite of KIRBY Dach, who was taken before him. He is a shoot-first type of center iceman. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Austin Matthews in that sense. Otherwise, they're very different players, but just in the fact like Matthews, where his first instinct is to shoot, he's got a great shot, knows how to use it, has a heavy shot and often scores from his creativity here on his own. So I certainly think he'll be a terrific fit with the Buffalo Sabres. they could use a player a lot like him, and I expect him to jump into their lineup probably in a year or two time. With the number 8 selection, the Edmonton Oilers here kind of went off the board again, in my opinion here. I took Swedish defenseman Philip Broberg. Now, Broberg, don't get me wrong, is a player that should be pretty decent here. He's a pretty solid two-way defenseman with a great size and speed. He's got pretty good puck skills. He's pretty mobile as well. Certainly has the upside to probably be a decent second-pair defenseman. I just personally thought it was a little bit of a reach for him to go at number 8. I thought maybe if that's who the Oilers really wanted, and it can kind of make sense how he would fit into their plans, that they might trade down to the draft, gain another asset, and get the player they wanted, perhaps with a lower selection. At number 9, the Anaheim Ducks selected another U.S.-born player from the U.S. NDP, TREVOR ZEGRAS. Now, ZEGRAS is another dynamic forward here from the U.S. program. Not quite the skater that Jack Hughes is, but certainly compares in a lot of other areas with his skills. He's a very highly skilled center iceman who has terrific puck skills and terrific vision. He has committed to playing for Boston University, so he will be going through the U.S. college route here for at least a year or two. He probably will be getting more attention if it wasn't for Jack Hughes. I think outside of Hughes, he very well might have the second most skill here, in my opinion, amongst the U.S.-born players. At number 10, the Vancouver Canucks were able to grab Russian winger Vasily PODKOLZIN. So the host team here of the draft, the Vancouver Canucks, I think got a bit of a draft steal. Many teams shied away from PODKOLZIN because of the Russian factor and the fact that he's likely playing in the KHL for 2 seasons. But as GM Jim Benning pointed out, most players at this pick are likely going to need a year or two anyway, so really what's the big deal? He could be a potential game breaker for them. He's an excellent 200-foot player, plays solid hockey in all 3 zones. He's a strong competitor and really has a lot of upside here and could very well turn out to be a terrific addition to the Canucks lineup. The number 11 pick was traded from the Philadelphia Flyers to the Arizona Coyotes in exchange for 2 picks. The Arizona Coyotes' first-round pick, which is a few steps down here, as well as an additional second-rounder. The Coyotes then used the pick to select Swedish defenseman Victor Soderstrom. Now, Soderstrom's a pretty good puck-moving defenseman, pretty fast-paced blue liner who loves to create some offense, very composed and sturdy defender back there with a full toolbox of skills at his disposal. He's not quite as dynamic as some other Swedish defensemen we've seen in the past, but certainly overall a pretty solid, decent defender at all aspects of the game here. So he should be a good complement to the Arizona Coyotes blue line in a few years' time. Could actually have an opportunity here to be mentored by a fellow Swedish-born defenseman and captain, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. At number 12, the Minnesota Wild selected another U.S.-born player here, Matthew Boldy. Certainly a ton of players from the U.S. NDP program selected in this first round. Boldy, who is a pretty solid playmaking, yes, scoring winger, is a dual threat, really. At one point, he was known more as a scorer, but I think his vision allows him to be a terrific playmaker and can certainly be a dual threat that way. So should be a terrific addition to the Wild lineup who's looking for more scoring. So another solid scoring winger should be a good fit in Minnesota after he goes through the U.S. college hockey system here, probably for a year or two before he makes his debut. At number 13, the Florida Panthers selected the top goalie in the draft and possibly even the best athlete in the draft, Spencer Knight. Now, as we know, the Panthers are certainly in a position where goaltending has a big question mark moving forward. Roberto Luongo may not find himself playing in the NHL much longer. They're possibly looking to move James Reimer. There's speculation they might be trying to sign Sergei Bobrovsky in free agency. But either way, long-term here, Spencer Knight has a ton of upside, and the Florida Panthers are likely the perfect team to select him. I think he'll be able to get an opportunity somewhere in the near future, and it's a great choice here for them to take the top goaltender in the draft. At number 14, the Philadelphia Flyers, who traded with Arizona and moved back, selected U.S. defenseman Cam York. Of course, Cam York's what we kind of call a prototypical new age defenseman. Great skater who moves the puck well. Like I said before, he's from California. He's been coached by Scott Niedermayer. So if Niedermayer's had any influence on him and turns out to be anywhere near the player he was, he'll be a huge steal here. But he's certainly unfazed by pressure. He's a great playmaker, can play the power play, and should be a terrific addition here to the Flyers blue line in a few years' time. At number 15, the Montreal Canadiens were able to grab the small but yet goal-scoring prowess of Cole Caulfield. Now, Caulfield's been a goal-scoring machine alongside Jack Hughes all year in the U.S. program. Certainly surprised he slipped as far as he did, even though he's small, if that's what the other teams were concerned about. Not really sure why this guy can score with the best of them. He's a very streaky scorer. He's broke all kinds of records this year, and I think the Montreal Canadiens might have found themselves another small forward, which I know might not be exactly what they had in mind, but none of the small forwards they have can score like this guy and will be a terrific addition to their hockey club here when he's ready to play in the NHL. Picking for the second time in the first round at number 16, the Avalanche take forward Alex NEWHOOK from the BCHL. Of course, another tie here to another BC guy playing in the BCHL. Of course, Joe Sakic, the GM of the Avalanche, from BC originally. And of course, BYRAM playing his junior hockey in Vancouver. So, of course, the BC GM taking some players here with links to BC as well. Of course, Alex NEWHOOK, though, is a terrific hockey player. He's going to be playing for Boston College coming up in the upcoming season. He ended up leading the BCHL in scoring this past year. He's a dual threat with the pass or the shot. He's a terrific. He's got a great shot, terrific playmaker, all-around awesome hockey player, strong defensive player, incredible speed as well, one of the better skaters in this draft. I think the Avalanche got themselves another terrific hockey player to add to their group of prospects. At number 17, the Vegas Golden Knights were able to grab themselves a forward here in PEYTON KREBS, who I did not think would be available. Not sure why he slipped, but it could have something to do with the fact that he's recovering from an Achilles tendon injury. Maybe some teams shied away for that, but I really didn't think they would. But PEYTON KREBS, he's not huge. He's about 5'11", but he makes up for that with an incredibly energetic playmaking style. He's got a terrific hockey IQ, very smart player. Certainly plays with a lot of speed, a lot of skill, and can certainly exploit his opposition here one-on-one. I think PEYTON KREBS is going to be a terrific addition here to the Vegas Golden Knights group of prospects. At number 18, the Dallas Stars grabbed themselves a large mobile defenseman from the OHL and Thomas Harley. A little bit of a funny moment, though, when the pick was announced by one of the owners. He was referred to as Harley Thomas. He got the name backwards, so that's something that'll likely be remembered here for some time. But Thomas Harley is a very efficient, play-driving defender. He's got good size, good speed. Certainly took on a much bigger role than expected here with Mississauga this past year, but he certainly thrived in it. He thrives in transition. He's certainly one of the younger prospects in the draft here as well. And I do think this is going to be a good selection long-term for the Dallas Stars. Number 19, the Ottawa Senators selected defenseman Lassi Thompson, playing for the WHL's Kelowna Rockets. Originally from Finland, Lassi's a strong skater, has terrific edge work, very agile, great at getting a shot through from the point. He does have a bomb of a shot as well, so you don't want to get in the way if one of his bombs are coming at you. Does need to work on a bit of his defensive play like many of these young defenders do, but overall he does project to have top 4 potential and could very well be a good pick. But this is certainly a pick that many people had pegged a little bit lower, so it was a little bit of a surprise to see Pierre Dorion and his staff select this player at this point in the draft. But overall, certainly does have some potential upside and could prove to be a good pick here down the road. At number 20, the Winnipeg Jets selected defenseman Vinny HIENOLA. So we get back-to-back Finnish defensemen here going in the first round. Of course, HIENOLA is a very talented offensive defenseman. Despite not having top blazing speed, he is a pretty good skater though. His edge work is awesome. He's a really smart player as well with excellent vision and good passing skills. Does appear to have top 4 upside, but certainly has some areas of his game that do need some work. But either way, I'm not surprised to see the Jets select a defenseman here with this selection. At number 21, the Pittsburgh Penguins selected the first forward from the QMJHL in this draft, Samuel POULIN. Of course, he's a second-generation NHL player. His dad, Patrick POULIN, played in the NHL for quite some time. He's a pretty good skater, but certainly could use some improvement in his skating. Like, it's good, but it's not great. Certainly needs to work on his footwork to be a little bit faster out of the gate. But he does play a power forward type of game. Can win you a lot of puck battles along the boards and in the corners. Not afraid to use his size as well. Really smart hockey player. He's got an excellent shot. Had a terrific run in the playoffs here in the Q as well. So certainly a pretty good selection here by the Penguins. But again, another player that was pegged to go a little bit later. I know in the mock draft I had him going later into the first round here in the last few picks. So we'll see. Hopefully things work out for him and the Penguins. With their second selection in the first round, the LA Kings selected a defenseman with the number 22 overall pick, Tobias Bjornfot. Now, Bjornfot's a pretty solid two-way defenseman. Got some pretty good leadership skills here as well. Certainly has been very impressive playing for Sweden in the past, and looks as though he could be a pretty decent addition here to the LA Kings D-core in the future. Again, another player that was taken a little bit higher than many of us had him ranked. Not too much, though, not much of a stretch. Many of us had him a little bit later here in the first round. But I do think long-term, he could prove to be a pretty decent pick here by the LA Kings. With the number 23 selection, the New York Islanders been a little bit off the board here with this pick, selecting forward Simon Holmstrom. Now, he's a very talented player with a lot of upside to become a very talented top 6 winger. He's certainly capable of making plays and making some great finishes here. He's a really good skater. The one knock on Holmstrom that's been a lot of concern by many teams is he's battled a lot of injuries, which certainly caused a lot of other teams to shy away, and which is why he was ranked lower in this draft. but hopefully he can overcome that and get himself to have an opportunity here to play in the NHL. I know after the interview, after the selection, Lou Lamoriello and the Islanders seemed to be very confident that they were not concerned about the injuries, but I know many other teams seem to be. With the number 24 overall selection, the Nashville Predators selected forward from the OHL, Philip Tomasino. Now, Tomasino is a very high-energy forward, one of the best skaters in the OHL. He's got a great set of hands, terrific playmaker as well, which makes him a dual threat to score when he's had an opportunity in the offensive zone. He's one of the younger players in the draft as well, as he doesn't even turn 18 until afterwards. So, good selection here, I think, by the Nashville Predators, whose prospect pool is a little bit thin right now, so he should be able to get himself an opportunity here in the short term if he's ready in the next year or two. At number 25, the Washington Capitals select from the London Knights in the OHL, Connor McMichael. Now, McMichael's a terrific skater and certainly has been working on becoming more of a shooter, taking advantage of a great shot and a great release that he has. He has a terrific wrist shot, needed to use it more, and something he's been working on. Very accurate with his shot and very powerful as well. But at the same time, he also has great vision and high hockey IQ, which makes him also a dual threat as a playmaker, and he's also known for being pretty solid defensively and pretty solid two-way guy. So overall, I think the Capitals got themselves a terrific selection here. I know some people had him going a little higher, some had him going a little lower, so he's pretty well selected right around where most had him pegged here. Connor McMichael should be a pretty solid player for the Washington Capitals. At number 26, the Calgary Flames select from the Moncton Wildcats, Jacob Pelletier. Now, Pelletier is another player who's kind of selected here a little higher than many had him pegged. Most had him down as a second-round pick. He's a smaller forward, which certainly thought might go against him a little bit, but he's really fast and really skilled. He seems to score on a fairly consistent basis, but a lot of people were concerned over his size, that even though he plays center in junior, he might turn out to be a winger at the NHL level. But even though the Flames kind of went off the board here a little bit, I think he's got a lot of energy and a lot of skill and could fit into the Flames forward group here in a few years' time. At number 27, the Tampa Bay Lightning selected Nolan Foote. Now, of course, they already have his brother, Cal Foote, defenseman, already in their system. They already drafted him a couple of years ago. So, obviously, the two brothers may get an opportunity here to play together. Of course, they're both the sons of former NHL defenseman Adam Foote. So, they certainly have some pretty good DNA here that they're working with. Now, on the other hand, Cal's a defenseman, but Nolan Foote is a big left winger, 6'3". Plays with a lot of power forward type of role. He's certainly big and strong that way along the boards. Projects to be a power forward type of guy at the NHL level. Really smart player though, and overall pretty responsible on all ends of the ice as well. So Nolan Foote, not a big shocker here because of the connection to Tampa, that they were the ones to select him. At number 28, the Carolina Hurricanes selected Ryan Suzuki. Now, Suzuki had himself a terrific draft season here. Of course, his older brother, Nick Suzuki, is now a Montreal Canadiens prospect. Ryan Suzuki is a really smart hockey player, a terrific skater. I think he's a little bit faster than his brother Nick here as well. He has terrific vision, sees the game well, and certainly should get an opportunity here in Carolina in the short term. They have an excellent group of young forwards in that organization, and he's just another one here to add to the mix. At number 29, selecting for the second time here in the first round, the Anaheim Ducks decided to select Braden Tracy. Now, this is another player that we kind of looked upon as probably being a little bit of a later pick, so I guess you can kind of say that the Ducks went off the board here a little bit. But Braden Tracy had a terrific season. He's a really smart player. He's got great vision, soft hands, ended up finishing second in the WHL scoring, and really projects to be a pretty solid forward here. So another great addition here by the Anaheim Ducks. At number 30, the Boston Bruins opted to select John Beecher, who once again is another player who was certainly picked much higher than many had expected here. A lot of these guys going near the end of this round were projected to be second rounders, but Beecher has excellent size, very physical player, extremely competitive as well. Certainly a guy who can play well in high traffic areas, go in the corners, play along the boards. Certainly something that he can excel at. He has committed to going to the University of Michigan, so he will be in the college hockey system here for the next few years. But overall, if you look at John Beecher's full body of work, I can see why the Bruins decided to take the chance on this selection. And the final selection of the draft here in the first round, number 31 overall, belongs to the Buffalo Sabres, who they acquired from the St. Louis Blues. They selected left shot defenseman Ryan Johnson. Now, once again, another player who was projected to go a little bit lower in the draft, but obviously the Sabres had their sights set on him and thought high enough of him to pick him here with the number 31 pick. He's a very smart player, but he's certainly, many people believe that he needs to add some muscle to his frame here to really have a shot at defending well at the NHL level. But he does project to be a second pair defenseman, draw some comparison to a player kind of like a Victor Mete in Montreal. Hopefully he has a little bit better luck, though, scoring his first NHL goal. We know Victor Mete has been snake-bitten during his entire time in Montreal. So, of course, as always, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions on the first 31 selections. Of course, let me know what you think were some of the most surprising picks, what were the best picks, and which ones would you have done differently if you were those NHL GMs. Leave your comments down below, and we'll continue the conversation in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.